Hi everyone, this is Sheila Butler, the host of Successful Women Talk, and I am excited today because we have two, not one, but two special guests with us today. We have Connie Williams and Sheila Tidwell. These ladies are serial entrepreneurs, and I am so excited to share their story with you. You're going to get a double dose of Southern accent here. They're from Tennessee, and I'm from Texas, so here we go. Welcome, Connie and Sheila.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. I am excited to have you guys because I've followed you all since I learned about your podcast, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But why don't we first start by you guys telling us a little bit about yourselves, a little bit of background, and maybe how you got started in business.
Go ahead, Connie.
Well, I like the fact that you called us serial entrepreneurs because I think that's what we are. We met in 1986 and had our first business in 1987 together. So over the years, we've probably had 9 startups and currently have 3 different companies. And it's been an adventure, and we've learned a whole lot from all of those what people would say were failed attempts at business, but we did learn from them. Mm-hmm. And so presently we are realtors, we're real estate investors, and we hold rental property, and we have a podcast, and we have a publishing company. Mm-hmm. Is that it?
Yeah, and Connie wrote her first book this year, too.
That's right. I'm excited. We're going to talk about that as well. So, you said you're currently realtors. That is kind of an interesting story to me because if I'm not mistaken, you guys did something totally different. You had a retail store. You did some, oh gosh, help me. You did some screen printing. You did some promotional merchandise for people. And then you read a book which changed your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. That was, you want to tell them? You bought it.
My credit to it is that I bought the book and gave it to her to read. It's probably about 9 years ago. I was at a bookstore. I'm an avid reader, and I picked up, because Connie likes to read more along the lines of self-help and all of that. And it was a book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And 9 years ago, I had never heard of this. So I thumbed through the first 2 or 3 pages and it just sucked me in. And I'm not a self-help person at all. I probably should be, but I'm not. And so anyway, I thought, well, Connie might like this. So I, bought it and brought it home to her and gave it to her. And I think she read it in just a few days. It was amazing. And then when she finished with it, she said, wow, you have got to read this book. And so that kind of led us down a whole different path, because up until that time we had been in retail sales, or we had been in, like you had said, with our promotional business and creating promotional ad goods to sell to companies and so forth. So it was a big change.
I think also what that book did is our advertising specialty company was about to turn 10 years old. And so when we realized that our business wasn't doing anything great, I don't know what we expected, maybe the clouds to part and, having it rain down upon us or something, but we realized we're just going to have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And then the thought of retirement hit, and it's like, what are we going to do? I mean, we can't, 65 years old selling embroidered hats and golf shirts, and so that book made us think about a whole lot of things differently and what we were going to do for retirement. And so it led us on a path of adventure, really, and just realizing how much stuff is out there that you don't know about that you can make a living from. And so that one book alone, I think, turned our business 180 degrees, and we went in a totally opposite direction.
Yeah,
buying real estate.
Yeah, we started buying real estate, but I'll tell you this, and especially for women out there, because things that, if it's got an engine in it, we're afraid of it, or if we have to take a hammer to it, we get locked up with that. And prior to us being in real estate, I didn't know the difference between wall cabinets and base cabinets in a home. I had never, the terminologies were just not in part of my vocabulary. And I feel empowered because of what we learned. I mean, now when we buy a foreclosed property, I'm the first one under the house.
I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not afraid. When a house is foreclosed,
and I'll be right there to pick the cobwebs out of your hair.
She takes the cobwebs out of my hair. But in a foreclosed property, it's as bad as it's going to get. You can't hurt it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing to be really afraid of at that point. And so it was empowering, and it's been an empowering, wonderful journey for us.
You know, and I love the fact that you said earlier, Connie, and you too as well, Sheila, is that even though you've had 9 businesses, you don't see any of those as failure. And I think that's what people really need to understand. Excuse me, that those are, you're building character. And you only fail if you stop. And you continue to move forward, and you continue to learn, and you continue to not be afraid to try something new. You know, the real estate market for a long time was, like you said, you're going in and rehabbing homes. You're crawling under in crawl spaces of a home. Now, I could never do that, by the way, but thank goodness you can. But, you know, you're trying something new. You're not being afraid. You're not letting fear stop you. And so many people let fear stop them. And
yeah, I totally agree. And I think that with every business, not only did we learn something, but we formed relationships with people that, you know, in the next business was very beneficial to have. And so Sheila and I are very relationship based, and we like to do business with people that we like.
Right.
And hopefully they, you know, like us in return. I know that we have done business with people for no other reason than the fact that they liked us, you know, instead of, we've had people tell us, you know, I'm selling you this house $5,000 cheaper because there was another guy that was going to buy it, but I don't like him too much. He was kind of pushy. I
love that. I was listening to Shark Tank the other day. I love that show. I don't know if you guys watch it, but Barbara Corcoran was saying, I was actually in an interview with her, and she was saying that she picks businesses sometimes not based on the business model itself, because she may completely change that, but she does it based on the person. And she looks to think, would I trust that person with my daughter? Or my child? Could I go back 5 years from now and say I would still trust that person with my child? And it's a gut thing. It's relationships. And I totally agree.
That is a great piece of advice. I love that, what you just said, and that's perfect. That's exactly right.
I think that's a real Southern thing, though, because I think that I was born in Indiana, Southern Indiana, so it's not really north, but it's considered north, you know. We had a northern accent when we moved down here, but as you can see, I've lost that.
You've lost that.
But even up, you know, Michigan or Wisconsin or New Jersey, New York, those states, I think that they're more business. They're more matter of fact. You know, they just want to get to the point, and it's, you know, let's cut all this chit chat out. And so when we were in sales, that's what we would spend in an hour. We'd spend 50 minutes chit chatting, talking about whatever, sailing or golf or the weather or, you know, whatever, and 10 minutes worth of business. You know, we'd get the order done, and then the rest would just be visiting. You know.
But it's true. I think you have to have those relationships. So I think it's extremely important.
Those are the ones that last.
Yeah. You know, another interesting thing that you said about the Robert Kiyosaki book is, and I did this before with my other businesses, are we working in our business or on our business? And do we truly have a business? Or, you know, whatever quadrant you're in. I know you've talked about that before, but I think you guys realized with that other business that you really weren't a company. You were really self-employed, and there's a big difference. How is being self-employed and being the technician, is that scalable?
That was a huge awakening for us. After we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, we read Robert Kiyosaki's book called The Cashflow Quadrant, and he shares in that the employee, the self-employed, the business owner, and the investor. And the goal is to be on the right side of the quadrant. And so we were self-employed. We were on the left side of the quadrant. And it didn't dawn on me for a little while, because I kept, you know, feeling really good because we were business owners.
That's right.
But then before I read, I was like, oh my God, we're not business owners. We're self-employed. You know, we couldn't leave for a month and come back and our business still be going. I mean, all of the pipeline would be empty because it goes with us.
Right.
And so it was that hit really hard, and that made me realize, wow, I mean, just being self-employed is maybe a step up of being an employee. And
to add to that too, we started analyzing our client base and our customers, and realizing if we were going to be truthful with ourselves, some of our clients we'd had for 8 and 9 years. It was just a matter of time before that company changed. And so either that person, our contact person, retired, or that company downsizes, or that company
brought in a whole new management
team. And then we would be starting over. And so we started thinking, gosh, do we want to start over at 55? You know, at this point we were 40, you know. And so what we found with real estate we kind of control our destiny here, because with our rental homes, that's how we make our living. That's where our cash flow comes. It comes from our rental properties each month. And of course, we both are real estate agents, so we make money off of that when we sell a home, and then we rehab houses to sell, and we make money off of that. But the basis, the foundation of our income is from our rental properties, and that's ours. And
I love that, and that brings me around to the story that I've listened to you guys on your podcast. You talk about having multiple streams of income, and that is so important. Even if I read Robert Kiyosaki's book as well. I almost think we're kindred spirits, because
I think we are too.
I've read the book.
We share the same name.
I know, we have the same name. We've read the same book.
Spelled the same way.
I have this great Southern accent. We also played the cash flow game. And now I'm not in real estate, but I still love that. And it taught me a lot about, just a profit. Are you making cash flow? And what's negative cash flow and positive cash flow? And, just like I think Connie said, maybe in her book, or I read somewhere, that I never read a book cover to cover until I was out of high school. I was a good daughter, poor student. I was a social butterfly. And, I have a friend that has a young son. He's struggling a bit in school, and he's a social butterfly. And I said, give him some time. I now have an MBA. I've owned multiple businesses. I've done a lot, because it's okay. He'll get there. You don't have to read a book cover to cover to be successful. So I think we're kindred spirits. So I love that about you guys talking about multiple streams of income.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so important. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I was flipping through my Kindle trying to find a quote on Dan Miller's new book, where Wisdom Meets Passion. We were just talking about employee a while ago when I said, self-employed is just it's just one step above employed. I didn't mean anything negative about that, other than I think with employees and self-employed people, we tend to think that we've got some kind of security in that.
Right.
And that's what you were talking about, fear earlier. A lot of people maintain that position as being employed, or maybe even running their own small business. They don't really get into a business owner or an investor status because of fear and because of the security they feel in that. And what Dan Miller writes about in his new book, which I got an advance copy. That's the only reason I can read it now. It's not out until August.
He sent it to her.
It's not out until August, but it talks about that, the difference in having security or having freedom. And a lot of people want both, but they're really kind of polar opposites.
Sure.
And I think that being a business owner, being an investor, being an entrepreneur, there has to be more direction or more desire for freedom than security.
Yes.
And we talk about this in one of our podcasts. I think it's episode 86. I'm not sure of the multiple streams of income, but that one continues to get a lot of hits. And here's the thing. Not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can go out and have that fear in their gut going, wow, I've got to make $30,000 this month. How am I going to do it? Some people are great at being teachers, and some people are great at being police officers and construction workers. What we try to share is this. Don't let that be the only thing. And we talked about this, the retirement and savings plans of 30 years ago. That's not going to be what helps you when you retire at 65. It's not even, we encourage everybody to, hey, if you've got a full-time job and you're loving life and that's what your passion is, go for it. But in the interim, you've got to be smart with your money and your spending and get prepared. And if you could buy a couple of rental properties and over the course of 25 years, pay those off.
Right.
And you have $2,000 or $3,000 a month coming in off of those when you retire to add to. Those are the things that we like to talk to people about as well, because not everybody can be a landlord. And have 70, plus rental properties.
Right.
It drives some people crazy.
It could just be incremental. It could be passive. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. That if you start a business, it doesn't have to be Apple. It doesn't have to be Walmart. It can be very small and just bring you in, just a little bit of income every month. And I think that's what's important for people to know. And people have talent. I think so many people are talented in ways that they just don't even realize it. Like you guys, you were in a situation that you were using a realtor, if I'm not mistaken, and you had to have additional income. You had to figure out multiple streams of income, and you said, hey, let's go back, and I think, Sheila, you did it first, if I'm not mistaken, and you now became realtors. You saw, you were backed into a corner, and you figured out a method to solve that problem. I love that.
Yeah. And we reacted slowly because quite honestly, it was like disappointing to have worked that hard and to go, wow, we still have a hole here,
Right.
and on top of that, the economy kind of tanked, and so houses weren't selling. And that's really where the hole came from, because we would have rehabbed a house or two or three, and that would have filled that hole. And then when houses stopped selling in late 07 and early 08, we were just like, wow. I mean, every time you turn around, it's like, doggone it. But you know what? That's the challenge. That's part of it. And so, it's okay for a day or two to be a little deflated and go, okay, now we have to do something different and add to this. Mm-hmm. But the important part is to realize we have to add something to this and get on with it.
And you did. You figured it out. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
I finally found that quotation in the book.
3 days later.
Well, there's a great blog. There's a great blog, and Sheila, I don't know if you follow Chris Gillibo, but the Art of Nonconformity. Uh-huh. So that's what I thought of when there's a John F. Kennedy quote in this book, and it says, "Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth."
Love that.
Which it goes back to that fear that people
Who said that?
John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
John F. Kennedy said that. Which I know that, Sheila, you have one on your board that is really good. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't see the opportunity in those times. I mean, we had a rough 07 and 08 because the housing market tanked. And so in looking at that, lending dried up. We were having starting to have harder times to get loans, and that forced us into, we got to think of something else. What are we going to do? And we were able to go out and then we developed a program, we call it Make More Money program, and we went to people that have, $100,000 in CDs at the bank, and they're making maybe 1% or 0.5%. So they're making maybe $500 or $1,000 a year on $100,000, and shared with them that we'll pay them 7%, interest only. And so they go from making about $80 a month to making $580 a month.
Love it.
And that crisis that we were in, we were able to turn that into an opportunity. We would have never, I don't think, gone out and solicited lenders to invest in our property if we were still able to go into any bank and say, hey, we need a loan for this.
And so, and not to be misleading to anyone, whenever things do get difficult, yes, your first reaction is, oh my gosh,
Yes.
And we have those days and those hours where we're going, gosh, what are we going to do?
Then we go to a movie.
And then we go to a movie.
I love that too.
We need to take a break.
Or we go sailing, and then we come back and we go, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And so those roadblocks are really opportunities to make you grow into a better business person and to gain knowledge on how to, because it leads to bigger and better things. It really does. That's not just some, ooey gooey feel good thing. It's true.
It does. I agree 100%.
I think that's the best thing people can do too. I know it works for us really well when we're in the middle, when we're facing something, facing some obstacle, some crisis or whatever. The best thing we can do is remove ourselves from the situation.
Yes.
Because we can't see it when we're in it. And so we got to get outside of it. And when we're able to just go and really make ourselves relax, then there's always a solution. There has to be. Mm-hmm. For every problem, there is a solution, or it wouldn't be a problem. Mm-hmm. And so you have to get outside of it sometimes, and it's almost magical.
I think the best solutions are found outside the boardroom. I think getting outside the boardroom, getting outside your office, getting outside of being just immersed in that, it helps clear things up and helps you see things a little bit clearer. So let's switch gears just a little bit. So let's talk about your podcast, which is how I found you guys. So how did you guys get into what made you decide to do a podcast? And now some people look at me and go, why do you listen to a podcast about real estate? Because you're not in real estate at all. And I'm not at all, but I learned so much from your podcast. It's so inspirational. It's motivational. I love it. So yes, and I learned things about real estate that and I've even asked you guys questions about stuff. I'm not going to go probably and buy a rental property because that's not my niche, but I like learning new things. So tell me about your podcast.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I picked up a book and
and you made Connie read it.
Read it and no.
Investing in real estate,
Yeah.
A to Z.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Are you starting or am I?
We started. I'll start, and then you can wrap it up and bring it home. We began looking at our goals a couple of years ago, wondering if we wanted to go out on the circuit and speak and share with people what we knew about real estate investing, hoping that maybe something we had, learned could help someone else.
We had a couple people approach us about putting a program together and doing
going
that,
out on the circuit,
becoming a speaker and traveling.
And honestly, a lot of the speakers that do that, they're on the road, 20 days a year. 20 days a month. Mm-hmm. And that's not appealing. That was something that I really was not interested in doing. Although I would like to travel. I would like to travel on occasion, but on our terms and go, and speak on our own terms. But not the way you have to do if that is your main core business. Because
250, 260 days out of the year.
It's not appealing at all. I like being home. I like being around things that mean something to me here and not in a hotel room. Yeah. So once we analyzed that, Connie really probably picks it up from here. She's the one that had heard, the word podcast. And I think Jonathan Nation, a friend here in Nashville, is the one who probably brought it up to you.
Well, in going along that same line with if we were going to develop product to sell as real estate investors to potential or would-be other real estate investors, we knew we were going to have a website of some kind. And so there's a guy here in Nashville, or maybe right outside of Nashville, that I knew did websites development. And so I called him. He was actually teaching a class, and Sheila and I were going out of town that next week. We weren't able to attend his class. So I called him and asked him if he would, give me a brief synopsis of what his class was going to be about and could he help us with this website, and told him what we wanted to do. And then he's the one that said, I think you guys need a podcast. And I was like,
what did you call that?
Yeah. What's a podcast?
What is a podcast? Yeah. And just, coincidentally, which I don't think really so much.
I agree.
But the maybe 2 weeks later was PodCamp Nashville. And it was, we had just talked on the phone. So I guess it was sometime in March, because March 30th or March 26th, I think, of that year, we went to PodCamp Nashville, and then we met Cliff Ravenscraft, who is the podcast answerman. And we were his first clients. Because we asked him, he lives in Cincinnati, right outside Cincinnati. We said, we want to do this podcast, but we don't have a clue how to do it. And you're great at it, but you're in Cincinnati. Can you come to Nashville and teach us how to do this? And so he said, I'll make you a deal. I'll get all the equipment ordered. So we paid for all the equipment, and then Cliff said that he would drive down. It's like a 6-hour drive. He drove down the night before and spent the night with a buddy, and then came to our house maybe at 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning. And he was here till 9 or 10 that night. But when he left, we had a podcast. We had our first episode on iTunes.
Yes. And we knew how to, he had walked us through everything professionally so that it would sound good. He showed us everything. Mm-hmm. And when he left here that night, we had a podcast, and it was up.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're looking to start a podcast, then contact Podcast Answerman. It's actually podcastanswerman.com.
Yeah, I actually took his podcasting A to Z course, and I think that is how I ended up finding you all. You know what? He did a panel. You guys were on a panel discussion with him.
Yes.
And I think I heard your Southern accent. I said, I have to find out who these ladies are.
Yay!
One other thing about the podcast, I was going to say, Sheila mentioned my liking for self-help books. I am a self-help junkie. And so it's kind of I think that's what I have to do for myself in the morning. I kind of save that little bit of time in the morning to get me focused. I've got ADHD, so I have to, get everything together, what I'm supposed to do. And work on that. It's not so much getting everything together that morning, because I try to do that the night before, but in that morning, I have to read something, I have to listen to a podcast usually every day, maybe 45 minutes or an hour, but I have to do that to get myself in gear. And so when we were talking about doing the podcast, I thought we could kind of mesh something motivational, because that's what I need, with something about real estate. And so that's how we came up with the tagline, with it being real life, real estate, real fun. And so we do talk about some stuff may be very emotional for us, and some stuff may be very fun for us. And every now and then there's something about real estate in there.
And I wanted to throw in just real quick, we hired Cliff because we could have taken 9 months and stumbled through and read this and that and maybe had a podcast at the end of the year. Instead, we just paid the money and got him and hired him. Just like you said, you took the A to Z course. And I want to back up too. When we got started in real estate, we didn't just get started by reading a book. The book motivated us to take the next step, and we hired a mentor, a local mentor.
Great point.
So my thing, if you're looking at and you're wanting to try something new, look to people who are already doing it. It's worth, if they charge you $1,500 or $3,000 or whatever it is they're going to charge you, it is well worth it to get in and get going.
I agree. You have to invest in yourself. I think especially as women, I think we need to know you can invest in yourself. It's okay. It's okay. You know, some of us are busy business owners. Some of us are just busy moms. Some are busy employees. You have to take some time and invest in yourself.
And not feel bad about it.
And not feel bad about it.
It's a great point that you bring up.
Well, I think we did a podcast on, how to make more money. And we answered that question by write a check.
Yeah,
exactly.
And because of our time, when you realize how valuable your time is, then it's okay to write a check for a couple $1,000s for somebody to teach you how to do something. I can't tell you how many people emailed us or we talked to after we had maybe 25 podcasts on iTunes, and they said, how did you do that so quickly? I've been trying to do this for 2 years or 3 years, And so that's the difference, like Sheila's saying, if we, and not at the time, not like we just had all kinds of money just to, write a check. I mean, it stung a little bit, $2,000 or $3,000 here and there. And, when we were investing in our real estate programs, we probably spent $20,000, $30,000 over the years.
But if you take $20,000 and you can take that and turn it into a 7-figure net, net worth, how invaluable is that?
I agree 100%. I think it's vital to invest in yourself.
Yeah, I just realized I have the word fence.
You gotta repair your fence?
I keep doing this. Yeah, fence is to remind me. We've got a property that we're working on. I got to ask about a fence. I just saw that. I'm sorry.
So let's switch gears again and talk about this. So
hey, I know that book.
Thinking Consciously Rocks. Now, I was privileged enough to get to view a few of these chapters before the book was published. I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. Then Amazon accidentally lost my book. I had to wait an extra week, but I did get it.
Oh, my gosh.
They overnighted it to me, so thank you, Amazon. But, Connie, let's talk about this book and the inspiration for this book. And your brother Carl was murdered. Let's talk about that, the impact that had on your book, on your life, and what this book has done for you.
Okay. Well, I think that it starts going back to maybe reading The Secret was probably the first introduction to the law of attraction I had ever heard of. And one thing led to another, and reading self-help books and reading more, ways to, like I said, I've just always done that, how to be motivated or something inspirational. And so about 3 years ago, that thought came to me that, I need to write a book, which is funny because until Sheila bought that Rich Dad Poor Dad, I wasn't a reader. I love to read now. I love to learn new things, but then I did not read. And so the thought of writing that book came to me, and it kind of pushed it away for a little while, and it just kept coming back. And so I was like, okay, I think I could write a book about maybe telling people how to overcome the loss of a loved one. So it's going to be something about grieving is what I thought was going to happen. I thought that was the book. And it just didn't turn out that way. And so I think the message, I told Sheila, the message never changed of what was supposed to be in this book, but the messenger changed. And I think that's why it took me 3 years to get through it. And
I'd like to say this too. a lot of people have a book in them, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Gosh, I'd like to write a book." You can write a book, and if you want to write a book, you can. She would get up in the mornings at 4 a.m. and spend 3 hours writing, and then finish, take a shower, get ready, and do her full day of what we have to do ahead of us, which is a million things. So her dedication to it was phenomenal, and that's the only reason it happened. And she would also, or she'd come in late at night, and she'd stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning and writing. So you can do anything you want to do, but how badly do you want to do it?
I think that's that point.
I think that's it. I think when something is driven by passion, and I was very passionate about this because I wanted people to know that they don't have to stay stuck in this place of sadness or bitterness or anger. So in my case, a lot of people lose a loved one, but if they lose it to natural causes or a car accident, it's shocking. But with a murder was something that was, very different. Not that I've never experienced it. Ironically, Sheila's brother-in-law was murdered in 1985, and I went through the murder trial with her family in 1986, never ever imagining that she would be my support 8 years later when my brother was murdered. And so in taking that, in different grief counseling groups that we've gone to over the years, there's so many people that wind up turning against each other, couples turning against each other instead of turning towards each other to get through this. And grief just tears a family apart.
Oh, it brings on all kinds of illnesses. Mm-hmm. Addictions become heightened during that time. Illnesses. I mean, we've seen some people heal from it, and we've seen other people. It's unbelievable because of the grief and the depression. Yeah. Suddenly all these terrible things physically start happening.
Well, my own father, my parents were married for 42 years, and 7 months after we buried my brother, we buried my father because he just grieved himself to death. Right. And so I thought that was, really the theme behind the book, but the impetus maybe that drove that was really just a sense of love, I think, and it turned into something much bigger, much greater than I ever thought it would, because in writing it was very cathartic for me and very healing. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of call that my therapy now, because so many things happened to me while writing that book. And so I went from a person who thought I had, healed and moved on, and I obviously hadn't, because I was still holding some pretty negative feelings towards this murderer. And that's the thing. My brother's case is unsolved, and so we don't know who did it, and I don't know who to pin that on. So it's just kind of the silhouette out there somewhere. And what the book did it made me able to basically not forgive him, but maybe forgive myself for allowing my power to be diminished. And I say that in a way, just power being days turning into, deep sadness from like his birthday or Carl's birthday or death day or something like that, to it's just a matter, what I learned is it's a matter of how we think about it. And so it was a total shift. I had to do a total shift. So I went from being able to talk about him and I'd start crying because it was very emotional, to now when I talk about him, I seriously can remember all the fun things that we did.
That's super.
And part of that is time. I mean, it was 15 years before I was able to do that. But and so I'm a pretty slow learner. I admit that. And so I'm not saying it's something, if somebody loses someone, whether you're grieving a job loss or a marriage, whatever you're grieving, it's your choice, as far as how long you stay in that place.
I agree.
And so my book, I just got into a lot of how we think about things really manifest in our life. And that becomes our everyday. It creates our everyday. It shapes our reality. And we can turn our life around just by a thought.
I agree. Great book. I agree. And you have some books in here that you also have read that helped you, and I read those as well. So
did you?
Yeah, there are a couple of them. They're really good. I too see now that if you think it, it is. So my choice in life is I think I'm going to be the most successful person ever. I'm going to be the happiest person ever, and usually those things happen. And I think a lot of it's in our thoughts.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
It does take action. You know, you're learning, you're doing this video. I'm sure a year ago you didn't know how to set up and do a Skype interview and even interview questions. And
you're very good, by the way.
You are. I mean,
yes.
This is
yeah.
And
I'm having fun. It's kind of fun.
You know, just like when we set our goals, we wanted to have 50 rental properties. There's so many people that say, I want to do that. You know, even in the book, there's a lot of people have told me, I want to write a book. Oh, man, I want to write a book so bad. And it's like, you can do it, you know.
Yep.
In fact, I think the statistic is 81 or 83% of Americans say they want to write a book, but only 1 to 2% do. And so it's like that, you know, we heard the story about a concert pianist who played beautifully. And this couple was invited backstage, and they got to meet her, the pianist, and the woman told her, I would love to play the piano like you do. And the woman, the pianist, looked at her and said, no, you don't. No, you wouldn't. You know. And she said, no, I would really love to do that. And the woman said, no, you wouldn't. And so the wife was very offended, and she said, why do you say that? And she said, because if you did, you would practice 8 to 10 hours a day. And that's what it takes. And so just like me getting up early or staying up late, I was only able to do that because I was driven by something, you know. And that's where I guess willpower or, you know, God's force or whatever that is will get you through it if you really want to do it. Passion.
You know, because we hear that a lot with women. They say, well, I can't start my own business, or I can't do this because I don't have enough time. Well, we really do all have the same amount of time. And I, as a mom of 2 young toddlers, I understand that my days are different now. But, you know, people say, how do you run a business? I actually have 2 businesses. How do you run 2 businesses? Have 2 kids that stay at home. They go to preschool 2 days a week. And it's because I get up early or I stay up late. So I put them down. I read them a nice book, put them down, then I go back to work. Exactly. But I do that. I sacrifice because that's important to me. It's what I want to do. So you can do it. It's just, it's not easy.
You're a great example of it because we, you know, I don't have any children. Connie doesn't have any children. You know, we have dogs, you know, but like we don't have kids, but we have nieces and nephews. But anyway, with having little ones who you are responsible for, it makes it tougher. But you're a great example to any woman out there who is trying to, in my opinion, say, I want to do something. They need to look to you because you are doing it, and it can be done.
Can be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, let's wrap this up, and this has been awesome. I want to ask if you had any bit of advice, just a nice little tip for someone thinking about starting a business, what would you say?
I really think it would be believe in yourself and try to stay as positive as you can, because we tend to have a lot of negative self-talk, and when we beat ourselves up over whatever that didn't go right and plans didn't turn out like we thought, we feel like that's life beating us up, and it may be, but I promise you there's something better around the corner. And so I think attitude is crucial to anything that we do. And so that would be my thing. Think consciously. Hey,
think consciously. Read this book. I'm all joking aside. This is a great read. Yeah. And listen, if people wanted to hook up with Sheila, I'm sorry I didn't let you answer. Do you have a bit of advice?
I would say simply look to other people who are doing it better than you are. And if you have to take them to lunch or hire them, you know, it's going to come at cost. It's going to come at cost of your time and cost of your money. But if you really want to do it and get in it, start doing it. But look to whoever is doing it better than you are and let them teach you. That's what we're all here for.
Sure.
You know, that's so true. Our real estate mentors told us when we got started, I think we'd been in the business maybe 3 years, and they said, do you know that you have done in 3 years what it took us 8 years to do?
Yeah.
And it's because they taught us how to do it.
Yep.
And so I'm sure now, you know, as we teach, we coach, we taught people how to do this, I'm sure they'll be able to do what we did in less than even 3 years.
Yeah.
I agree. Having a mentor is truly important, which is another reason why I wanted to do this web TV show. Is I think we all need a mentor, and I think hearing other people's stories like your stories, amazing. You can, and there are other people that have out there. They've done it. See what they've done. Seek their advice, and just kind of move forward.
Yeah.
Listen, if people wanted to hook up with you, let's talk about Twitter, Facebook. Where would they hook up with you at?
They can catch our podcast at www.connieandsheila.com, and that's SHEILA.
That's right.
So it's connieandsheila.com. And then we also have a Facebook page. It's Connie and Sheila talk.com. That's the Facebook page.
Okay.
And then I have a Facebook page. Friend me. I would love to be your friend. And Connie also has a Facebook page.
Did you tell me your last name?
No, Sheila Tidwell.
And I will link all of these up in the show notes as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you can catch me at Facebook at Connie Williams, and my email is connieandsheila@gmail.com.
Great.
We do have a Twitter account. It's Connie and Sheila, but we don't tweet a whole lot. And
I'm on Facebook all the time. Fence.
Right.
Ladies, this has been...
I was going to say, we also have a website, connieandsheila.com, and that's our real estate site that talks about private lending. Or Sheila's awesome about keeping up with, she manages 72 rental properties she manages by herself, and she's able to keep on our website what's coming up. And so that's at connieandsheila.com.
And you guys have some products, some real estate educational products on your site as well. We'll link those up also. And don't you have a new blog?
Well, thinkingconsciouslyrocks.com is a new website that thank you that we started, and there's just a couple of blogs on there. I haven't been really faithful about that as much as I should,
because I've been pulling her in all kinds of different directions.
You've been keeping her busy
with the rehabs. We have several rehabs going on, but she'll be able to get back to that.
With the knee surgery and the rehabs, I've not done a whole lot of that yet.
But I totally understand. Well, ladies, this has been a pleasure. You guys are wonderful. I'll link everything up at the show notes so people can hook up with you all, and I certainly appreciate it. You guys are extremely positive and motivational. Check out their podcast if you haven't done that.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. This was fun.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for watching this episode of Successful Women Talk. I really enjoyed the chat with Connie and Sheila. I think they're such an inspiration, especially seeing they went from, starting 9 businesses, now currently own 3, started out in a totally different market than where they are today. They learned that market by investing in themselves, finding a mentor, and just thinking consciously. So thanks again. Hey, check out the website below and sign up for our email. We'll keep you informed on all of our newest updates, interviews, and anything new and anything with Successful Women Talk. Thanks again and have a great day.